Yeah. Yeah, so I actually studied psychology. I started out as a theater major, and then also took French on as a major, and 6 years after undergrad, finally got out of all of that. So
yeah. And then the real learning too.
And then I was also taking studies in Jungian psychology and astrology and all this other stuff on the side in metaphysical stores and stuff.
Well, tell me how an astrology reading with you would help a person.
What I'm able to do in reading somebody is I first tune into them in terms of the intuitive piece, and then I begin to get information from that, which I then turn to the birth chart, and it just sort of deepens into an understanding of their family patterning, what the transformations they're going through right now, what does it mean.
When you say use your intuition to tune into them, how do you do that?
Well, it's a slow sort of tuning in and feeling them out, and then I just begin to receive impressions. So what happens for me, and everybody's got a dominant, I think, sixth sense. For me, I'm very clairaudient. I just sort of know and hear things come through that applies to questions I'm asking about the client. So I want to know, first of all, why are you even here having a reading with me? I want to know what is most disempowering you right now and how can I help you with that? And then I want to know where you're headed with all this in your evolution of your soul. So.
Well, do you ever have clients go, well, you're the intuitive, you should figure that out?
Well, I usually do figure it out. So, I mean, what I do is I ask those questions before I even meet with them, and all my readings are done over the phone now because I just can't see people in person. I'm too busy. So I work with people all over the world, and so that's kind of how I operate. And then it's basically a session of going into deep psycho-spiritual dynamics of their own identity and where they're headed in their individuation process, and then working with that, coaching them on how to work with it, and then also giving them lots of insights to help.
And what are the main reasons people come to you? I'd say, let's see, health, money, relationships.
Yeah, I would never claim the skill of being a medical intuitive. That's my friend Carolyn Mace. But so I don't get a lot of health stuff most of the time, but certainly relationship, career all the time. You know, people want to know what their purpose is via career. We're such a westernized society that career and purpose are synonymous. So I get a lot of questioning about that, and sometimes it's about their children. I do a lot of readings for parents with their children. What is their contract? How can they best parent their child with their sacred
You ever get questions, when's the best time to conceive? Or
Oh yeah, it's called electional astrology, where people want to know, and also relocation, like where should I live? What's the best area in the world for me to live? So
I've heard of astrocartography.
Astrocartography, exactly. Yeah, that's what.
So you do that as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I know it all. Well, I would never say that, but I do a little bit of everything with astrology.
And then do you make a recording when you do?
I do. All my sessions I record to CD for the client because it's a lot. It's a lot to pack in an hour, and most people by the time they're done they want to take a nap after I'm done with them. So it's a lot. They're going to need to review it. And plus, I talk about cycles coming in the future, so it gives them a chance to reference again what I've said about what they're moving through.
Now, I interviewed, Dawn Silver. She used to own Healing Earth.
Oh, I remember that store.
Yeah, on Ashland Avenue, and she does astrology, and so I had a reading with her, and she went out like 3 months or 6 months with it. Do you do that?
I go out a year. Yeah, I usually, and it's more about empowering them. Rather than trying to predict what's going to happen, I want to help people co-create what's going to happen. So, you can't change the cycles you're in. They are what they are. The archetypal cycle that you're experiencing is what it is, but you are empowered and can transform within that via what you're able to know consciously.
I know some of our audience doesn't know what an archetypal cycle is. How do you use the word archetypal?
Well, archetype, first of all, what's an archetype? A lot of people might not even know what that is. An archetype is an inborn pattern. And so if I say someone's a bully, that's an archetype. Or someone's the quintessential mother. They're nurturing, they're loving. I say that, and immediately we have a Rolodex in us that goes, ooh, I know what that pattern is. Yeah. So what archetypal cycles are, it's taking a cycle and connecting it to, so for example, right now, astrologically, we moved into Pluto, which in astrology is death, destruction, rebirth, transformation, in Capricorn, which is social structure, capitalism, economy. So in astrology, we saw
So
this coming.
you're telling me that the economy's in the tank because it's just there's an astrological cycle
that mirrors it. And that's another thing to know about astrology. Astrology oftentimes...
Please tell us when this cycle's going to end.
We're in for a long haul, but with this cycle, what I would say is that a lot of us think of astrology, even astrologers, I'm not one of them, as causative. In other words, these planets cause things, the cycles cause things. But what they really are is synchronicity. So it's an outer cycle and phenomena mirroring a process that's happening both internal to us and external to us. So there's a connection. And so what astrology does exquisitely is maps that out. So when we look at an archetypal cycle, we're looking at an inner and outer cyclical process that's happening both internally and externally at the same time. That is within the pattern of, for example, Pluto and Capricorn.
All right. So an archetypal cycle, you understand you define archetype for us, but an archetypal cycle, now that's something...
It's a transformational process happening within the archetype. So Capricorn is its own archetype. It's the entrepreneur is a Capricorn. It has its own archetypes in it. The entrepreneur, the CEO, the business strategist, the economist. These are all archetypes. The conservative. These are archetypes. So what Pluto's doing is always bringing up in a cycle of Pluto the shadow, because Pluto was the lord of the underworld, right? So we're always dealing with what's unconscious. So this is a collective process also in which the collective must face what it's been unconscious of and transform it within that pattern. So the pattern being Capricorn is being forced into a shadow reconciliation of what's been unconscious in our culture, which is what's happening. I mean, what we're seeing is a result of our unconsciousness within our economy, our government. It's all coming up now as a fate.
All those things we just kind of look the other way, just shoved under the rug.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about limited resources on the planet. We don't have to worry about
or we don't have to regulate the mortgages.
No, don't worry about
banks.
it. Just bottom line, we're making money.
Yeah,
and
everybody's happy.
Yeah, that's what it means
until the bottom fell out.
Until the bottom fell out, exactly.
Now, do you ever do astrological readings of famous people like presidents?
I actually think that's a violation because what I'm able to do is really go into somebody's soul, and I think for me to just treat it at that sort of surface level of going into their soul in front of people I think without permission, no, I never do that. I've been asked to do that on radio shows and stuff in the past, and I won't.
Well, I've had guests who have done it, and they've done it very ethically and morally. I believe.
Sure. I mean, it's not a personal preference for me.
Yeah. I respect that.
Yeah.
I respect that. So, what makes your book different than other books?
Well, I think what we just saw in spirituality and self-help was this huge phenomena of the law of attraction, in the recent past couple of years. So transforming fate into destiny is actually more about looking at the other aspects of beyond the law of attraction. Because here's the deal. The book The Secret's been out, and it's all about abundance and manifesting abundance, and now everybody is out of work and economically having a hard time. So if this book was really able to just go in and do its work, I think we'd be in a different position. And what I offer to balance this perspective is the law of attraction for me is fantastic. It's definitely a real energy that you can connect to and use. But there's also the law of fate and destiny. There's the law of action. There's other forces in the universe that are part of a creative process.
Well, what is the law of fate? What is the law of destiny?
That if it's not within my soul's agreement with my life path to... let's say, for example, I want to be an Olympic gymnast. And this is actually kind of true because when I was a kid I did. But I grew to be 6'1", and that threw off my center of gravity after sophomore year to where that was never going to be within my destiny. But if I would have stayed attached to that objective and said, well, I'm going to be an Olympic gymnast, or I want to be this, or I want to be that, but in my soul's agreement, that's not part of the plan, but my ego's so fixed on that, then I'm going to create more fate and suffering for myself versus aligning with the law of attraction by saying, you know what, that's not my plan. What is my plan? Bring it to me, universe. Let me align to that. Let me positively infuse that with power, and let me draw in the opportunities and attract to myself those opportunities. A lot of people, through their ego and what I call cultural spells, which is the culture says, this is what you should want to be a happy person, versus this is what my soul's telling me my direction's about.